Hello, today I'm going to be talking about asynchronous, which will tie directly into what we've already talked about with synchronous learning. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my slides and we'll start covering asynchronous. So asynchronous is when lessons or learning is occurring at different times and in different places. Students can access content, resources, activities at any time and anywhere. They can control the time, place, and pace of their learning, and they're expected to work independently to complete assignments and tasks. So some of the benefits of asynchronous learning, it provides lots of flexibility. So that provides the families the ability to really select and choose when their learning happens, maybe when the parents are home, and it also allows the students to go at their own pace rather than trying to keep up. And they also have more time to reflect and understand the work more thoroughly. That means they can go back and they can rewatch information, they can reread articles without worrying about getting behind when they're in a synchronous lesson. So some of the expectations: learning intention and target. So always making sure that the students are aware of what the intention is for the asynchronous work. Overview of the lesson. Direct instruction, I will be going over that. That will be the instructional videos. Also provide written assignment instructions. So whatever you're writing out, make sure you have a video explaining how to do that and vice versa. Links to further practice, application, and assessment. Classroom communication and collaboration. So that's having the students discuss, do discussion questions, and then also have them reflect on what their thoughts are, what they're thinking, and how they're doing with this new information. So some examples is read and take notes, video-based instruction, reflect and document learning, practice and review. These are online discussions, looking at resources. I mean, the options are limitless. This was essentially the homework that we would have provided if we are back into face-to-face sessions. How to use asynchronous work. In the synchronous part, I said to let the asynchronous work do the heavy lifting, and that is especially true. You can use it as pre-work and post-work for the synchronous session. So having the students go and watch the video and answer a couple questions before they come on to their synchronous lesson for the day or the week allows them to understand, or at least have done a first read or a first watch of the new information they're learning, and then you're able to actually go in and go a little bit more in depth rather than spending a majority of your time trying to explain those new concepts. It allows the students to control the pace for how they're processing the information. Think Khan Academy, giving them the ability to go back and rewatch it over and over again. Include online discussions so students are thinking critically before attending class, giving them a kind of icebreaker where they're going in and they have to try to give their answer before you start really talking about it in class. It allows you to maximize that synchronous time, and then you can focus on that high value learning activities rather than the basics of what you might be doing in your synchronous time. So synchronous videos, we will be using Screencastify. It is something that all teachers in the district wanted, so we have changed. You need to make an individual video for each topic you cover. If you're, for example, if you're doing math, make sure you're only doing one equation or one example at a time, and you're really thoroughly explaining that so that students can go back. Do not mix and match them. For if you're doing something like in English, if you're talking about grammar, make sure you're focusing only on nouns and not nouns and verbs, unless you've already covered both of those and you're trying to show how a noun and verb go together. Otherwise, the students will get confused and it'll be a little bit more of an information overload, and they won't understand what they're supposed to be getting out of those videos. Always show the student perspective. Students will need to know the videos are built for the student. They're not built for us. And so we need to make sure that the students know how they're supposed to get to their curriculum, know what they're supposed to do when they're doing their asynchronous work online. Something to remember for that: iPad apps, the layout is often different from the website. Think if you're going to any social media site like Facebook, if you go to the app, the buttons are in different locations than if you're going to the website. iPad can't use extensions even when they're using the Chrome browser. So if you use an extension all the time on your Chrome, if you're on your Chrome browser, that Chrome browser extension will not work, even if you're using the Chrome browser app. It's only for the website version only. Chromebooks only have access to the Chrome browser. So if you're doing something and see it maybe in a different format on Safari, we'll need to remember that. And then also remember that if you have them opening it up into something that's not the Chrome browser, it will likely not work. And then remember, if you are more comfortable using those Microsoft tools like Word, PowerPoint, the formatting is often different when it's downloaded into Google G Suite, and that is the only way that the students will be able to open those. So they might be able to open it in preview mode, but if they need to edit it, it will have to be downloaded into the Google G Suite tools, especially on the Chromebooks, and the formatting might change, which might make them a little bit confused on how to do that. Make sure to keep your videos under 10 minutes. You can pause it or give them a bit of a space where you can tell them pause the video and go do this. This is especially nice when you're doing math or writing, because that gives them the ability to stop, go and write something, go complete the first step of the equation, and then go back and rewatch the video. Or they can do a full watch and then they can follow those directions of pausing it and completing it, and then they're able to go along with you even when they're going asynchronously. It's super nice to do this. Always also make sure that the tools that you're introducing in your asynchronous videos are tools that the students are familiar with. If they're not, and you're not planning on showing them how to use it in your synchronous, make sure that you have a video or a link to a video that they can reference so that they know how to use those instructional tools online. Drop asynchronous work. So we do have drop dates. I believe those are Monday. Make sure that all material are properly set. That means make sure that all the links work, that the sharing settings aren't set to private. A great way to do this is if you have a partner or a friend in your school, add them as a student, and then just assign that work to them early on, say, Saturday night or Friday, and have them go in and make sure that all the links work before it becomes live for all the rest of the students. Make sure that the students are familiar with the tech tools. Do not overwhelm them. Our students will be confused enough, especially at the beginning of the year, so go very slowly with that. Make sure that you can go through, they know that tech tool, and they know exactly which tech tools they're supposed to be using. Provide written and verbal instructions to fit student needs. So some of our students are going to understand the written word better than the verbal word, and then vice versa. So make sure that we have those directions in both. And then make sure that everything drops at the same time. If you're telling them, if you're referencing something that isn't dropped until an hour and a half later, or it's not going to be dropped until the Wednesday drop, or however you're setting it up, that's going to really confuse the students and they will give up quite easily. You usually have 2 to 3 clicks before the student will give up. And so it's important to make sure that all of those resources are easy to locate. Make sure that when you're creating an assignment or you're creating your drop, everything is in the same location and it's easy for them to just go bam, bam, bam to find all that information. That is for drop work. And then student discussion. Student discussion is extremely important in a online setting because it's really the way our students talk with one another. And it's super important when you're doing those virtual kind of situations that you make sure that their voice is heard. Making sure that you're not using discussion that have one answer only or fact-focused tends to restrict discussion because there's no need for discussion. Everyone's going to have the same answer and you'll end up just getting good job, yep, I agree, instead of an actual discussion happening. The best discussion fit into one of these sections, categories. So subjective, evaluate, problem solve, brainstorm, and debate. I do have a document here that is from Catlin Tucker, who created this wonderful grid that has our 4 main subjects. You can go in and you can see examples of what that could look like in elementary, high school, and middle school. and for each of these different categories. So you can go in and see what a discussion might look like for brainstorming in high school in math. And you can find that all there. It should be linked and should work for you guys. And then there are two different ways that you can do discussion. So each one of our LMSs, either Seesaw or Google Classroom, has a written kind of program. Class Journal is for Seesaw, and assignment discussion is for Google Classroom. Make sure if you're using the Google Classroom part that you have it set where students can comment on each other's and not just you. If you want to do it where they're talking out loud, I would suggest Flipgrid is a great tool for that. If you have questions on different things like this, there is some information already in Alludo and more will be coming soon. And finally, let me go through some drawbacks for asynchronous learning. The wait time to answer questions is longer. That simply means that we need to make sure we have set up communication plans with the class and they're well aware of them, and ensure that you're available during those times. If you cannot be available, say in the evenings, make sure you're giving them places they can turn to sort of find those quick answers, and what to do if they're struggling with their asynchronous work and you're not available. The lack of interaction can make learners feel very isolated. It makes them feel less motivated to actually do the work. So making sure that those lessons are engaging and that they're really focused on students is really beneficial. That's something we already do in the classroom. But it's the same when we're building our asynchronous lessons, relating it to what they might have experienced or what they might see in real life is really beneficial for that student focus. And the last one also sort of relates to the same thing. It's learner-centered. It requires our students to really be disciplined and focused to complete that work without the teacher reminding them and sitting there to watch as they're doing it. So I would always maybe give the students a tip for how to stay focused for the week, and then provide ensure that your lessons are engaged so that they're excited to do those different lessons. So that is all I have over asynchronous work. Please, if you have any questions, please contact me or talk with your principal. Thank you.